Hello everyone! Welcome to our video series on bringing formative assessment to life in Edmonton Catholic Schools. As you've seen earlier in the series, formative assessment is a cycle in which teaching is responsive and learning is informed, thereby improving the learning of our students. The formative assessment cycle then includes both assessment for learning, in which teachers use student learning information to guide their instruction and provide feedback to their current students for the purpose of improving learning, and assessment as learning, in which students reflect on their learning, monitor their own progress, and implement the feedback they receive from each other and from their teacher to move their learning forward. As you watch today, consider which of Dylan Wiliam's 5 key strategies for formative assessment are evident in this video. 1. Clarifying, sharing, and understanding the learning intentions. 2. Designing learning activities that elicit evidence of learning. 3. Providing feedback that moves learners forward. 4. Activating students as learning resources for one another. And 5. Activating students as owners of their own learning. You may also want to consider, what features of the learning environment and classroom culture do you think contribute to the success of this strategy? How might you already engage learners and check for understanding? And what opportunities do you see for your own practice? Today, we will learn how one teacher uses games to engage students and check for understanding so she can make responsive, formative decisions about next steps for teaching and learning. Come with me as we learn how to play Taboo.
I'm Trish Paquette, and I teach at Holy Trinity, mostly biology. Occasionally I've taught chemistry or other science courses, but this year it's just bio. Well, being a Monday morning, had to get those brain juices flowing a little bit, so we started by playing a game of Taboo with the Bio 20s, just to get them refreshing their memory about the terms that we've introduced about photosynthesis. We give students, have them either work in a group of 2 or 3 and give them a list of words. So one student has a list of words and they're trying to get the other student who can't see the words how to guess what words they're trying to explain. So basically with your list of words, you're trying to give clues or hints how to guess the words without giving away, spelling or rhymes with or anything like that. So again, one kid has their eyes closed or they're facing the back of the classroom and they're just listening to the clues and they have to try and guess the words. It really gets the kids to try to put things into their own words because they're not allowed to use any of the other terms in their explanations. So they're trying to use their own words, their own explanations to get the other students to guess these words, and that really helps them, I find, when it comes exam time, especially for written response questions. If they've already put things into their own words, they find it much easier to express later when they're trying to show me their learning and understanding of the concept. I like to really have them support each other as a cohort. It just, again, gets them going, and they get really good at encouraging other members of their group as well, or they can just say, the student that's guessing, no, I still don't get it, could you try, again, saying it in a different way. And so I just find the communication opens up a lot better when they're speaking to each other as opposed to just writing down an answer. Yeah, so when the students are talking to each other, it really gets them thinking and interacting with each other and using each other as learning resources. So I haven't done it every Monday morning. We usually do it kind of more as a review after we've kind of covered a major concept. So it's not going to necessarily be every single Monday morning. I might do some other kind of brain juice flow activity, but I do find this is a good one to, again, just get those terms popping up in their head again, especially when they're learning so much vocab. it just allows them to wake their bodies up, get them moving, so they're not just sitting in one spot the whole time, getting sleepy, especially on a Monday morning. And yeah, it just actually helps them move their blood through their brain, get things flowing. And I find that once they're moving, they're able to, what's the word I'm looking for? Communicate, I guess, but they're able to better communicate or express their answers and get their brain juices flowing once they've got their body juices going. When we do Taboo in class, it really allows me to listen to the students and for their understanding of each of those concepts. And so I can listen for any misconceptions or miscommunications or even just mix-ups among terminology. And so one thing that I'll often do when we're done with a list of words is ask them which one was the hardest to explain, and why. Why did they find it difficult to explain? And that then allows me to maybe think, okay, well, maybe we have to go back and review this section, or maybe I just need to clarify something really quickly. So listening to them, asking the students which ones were, again, hard to explain, help me understand what they know and what they don't know, which then allows them to also identify what they know and don't know. If it was harder to explain, then maybe they need to go back and review those topics as well. So that's the evidence that I'm getting, just again, identifying misconceptions or misunderstandings along the way.
Do your students even realize that when you're doing these things, it's formative assessment? Like, do you name it? Do you call it, okay, we're going to do a formative assessment now, we're going to play some Taboo, and I'm going to listen, and all of that stuff?
Definitely not.
No?
No, they don't. We don't call it formative assessment. It's funny, when you left, the students, again, some of them that came later were asking what was happening, and I said, okay, well, we're talking about formative assessment, and they were like, what is that? And so we talked about what assessment is, and then I gave them names. That's what I said to them. I said, did you even realize like what we were doing? Like, what do you think I'm doing when we're playing these games? And a few of them were like, well, just getting a break. And it's like, yeah, sure. But, again, I'm checking to see, like, where did I maybe go wrong as a teacher? Did I miss something? Or do I need to go back over and explain things? And then they were kind of like, oh, yeah, I get it. Is that why we do this activity? Or is that why we do mini quizzes? So they started to be able to put it together. I mean, it's taken years of teaching to get some of these put together well enough where I feel like the things that we've been talking about, where I feel comfortable in using them and I feel that they do help. And so a little bit of that is kind of just working backwards, knowing if the end game is that big test, which again may or may not be best practices, but if that's kind of the end game to get them there, then how are we going along the way to double check that? So by using things like mini quizzes or lab write-ups, or again some of these activities, we talk to each other when we're, co-teachers will talk to each other to try and plan what are some different activities. Do you have worksheets or drawings or something else that we can use? And so I find like here in our department, our teachers are great collaborators for that. So when we work to plan collaboratively, we're planning out our semester and we're intentionally putting time in for checks for understanding and different activities for formative assessment. That's in our daily plans. And then we're usually checking in with each other in a day or the morning of and just saying, hey, for the next couple days, this is my plan. I'm going to try this activity that I found. If it works, I'll pass it on to you. If it blew up in my face, I'll let you know what went wrong. And so I feel like I'm very lucky that we have great teachers that are willing to share all of those activities, their successes and their failures with it too.
What's the criteria for if it works?
If it works, I mean, I usually share it regardless, and I'll say this is my idea with how I see this going. The criteria for if it works is, I guess, am I getting a sense of whether students either A, were engaged in the activity or not, or B, are they actually understanding it? Am I getting that sense of they understand the concepts, they're able to explain the concepts or answer the questions? I think very rarely have I ever had something formative blow up in my face, because it's just formative. We're checking here. Okay, maybe this question or this question type didn't work, or maybe students are just not into Taboo on a Monday morning. You never know. So we can switch it up and try something else. So whether, again, I just throw up a Kahoot instead based on the group, and sometimes it is just based on the class too. Sometimes you'll have a really chatty class that loves to play games like that, and then sometimes you'll have kids that maybe just would rather draw something and then hold up a whiteboard instead. So I really have who my students are in mind when I'm planning the lessons and the different activities.
Let's recap with a few tips for success when using activities to check for understanding and to engage students. You heard Trish say before that it is always best to begin with the end in mind. So that means to identify and understand the desired outcome for learning. In this case, students must understand content area vocabulary. Then determine what evidence will tell you students have learned. So the evidence here is that the students are using that content area vocabulary correctly and meaningfully. And Trish's advice for designing instruction, learning activities, and practice is to be sure to plan for it. Plan to incorporate checks for understanding, that they're using that vocabulary correctly and meaningfully throughout the term. And once you are able to do these things, you can use the students' responses for you to be responsive. So listen to the students as they speak. Are there common misconceptions? Do students find this too easy? Perhaps they're finding it too slow. And then adjust the teaching according to those responses in order to address misconceptions or provide more challenging work or to change up the pace. I'd like to extend a special thanks to Trish Paquette from Holy Trinity High School for welcoming me, my camera, and all of my questions into her classroom. If you'd like to learn more, we invite you to visit our SharePoint site for links to these and other resources. Visit the bit.ly in the bottom left-hand corner of the screen to access our SharePoint site. And if you have specific questions, feel free to reach out to your assessment and reporting consultant at Lumen Christi Center for Catholic Education. Thanks for watching and have a great day.